in our hands. Here we stand. I'm a teacher, I'm black, and I'm a man. In demand, hard, in demand, intelligent, in demand, integrity, in demand.
In demand. Teach, mentor, volunteer.
The outside of an 18-wheeler on a parking lot at Northside Hospital proclaims surgery through the belly button involved in a hysterectomy.
The vaginal cuff, which is right there. Okay.
Inside, helping to teach the technique, is a 15-year-old.
And I bring the needle out one way in.
Tony Hansberry actually developed the technique that makes it possible for doctors to do delicate post-surgery stitch work with minimal complications.
So recovery is faster, complications are less, pain is less, time off of the family, off of work is less. So
for the patient getting a hysterectomy, it makes surgery less invasive.
I didn't really know it was going to get this big. I was just doing it as a science fair project. And you can turn I'll tell you guys
He found he could work with the machines like a pro. Turns out they involve the same good hand-eye coordination Tony perfected so well in his many years of playing video games.
It's because you're looking on a screen, so it's just like video games in that you have a controller in your hand and you learn the different movements, and while you're looking on screen, with this you have to look on screen to know where you are inside the actual body.
Tony suggested that they do a vertical instead of horizontal.
Tony attends Darnell Cookman School of Medical Arts in Jacksonville, Florida, which is referred to as the first magnet school in the nation with a medical curriculum. And while you might think seasoned surgeons would look down on a kid coming up with something new, that's not the case.
I'm going to follow you with the camera. So
It makes me feel good, and it also keeps me humble and makes me know that I'm doing changes. Really just somebody who's was given a chance to do something great and took that opportunity. And everybody can do it. They just have to be in the right setting.
All right. Welcome once again to another episode of the In Demand podcast. Of course, my name is Quan Nellums. We have our co-host today, man. It's been a minute since you co-hosted with us, Kente, but
yeah,
you know who you are again.
Man, I'm happy to be back in the co-pilot seat, man. Thank you for the opportunity. Kente Rosser here with In Demand, ready to get it started, man. Thank you.
All right, man. Yo, we have a very special guest today. When I was teaching ninth grade, man, I taught about this young man. Right when he was getting started doing his stuff, when I was teaching ninth grade, he was in the ninth grade, and I actually kind of, talked about him to my students, and, he's an impressive young man. I don't want to give too much because I want him to explain himself, but he's in medical school right now. He did some phenomenal things as a ninth grader, as a 14-year-old, that still impacts the medical community today. So we're going to bring him in, just have a discussion, about who he is, what his aspirations are, and then just, what his beliefs are about, Black men being in demand as far as mentors, volunteers, educators, for the next generation of youth. So I'm excited, man. I'm ready to get started. So let's bring our guest today, Mr. Tony Hansberry, front and center. Right, man. Mr. Hansberry, Tony Hansberry. Hey, man, how's it going? Where are you right now?
I am in my room in Atlanta, Georgia.
All right, Atlanta. All right, so, well, man, give us, give us a little bit about who you are. Talk to the audience, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, well, of course, I'm thankful for the opportunity. My name is Tony Hansberry II. I am a first-year medical student at Morehouse School of Medicine, which is located in Atlanta, Georgia. I received my master's degree in interdisciplinary medical sciences from the University of South Florida in Tampa, and I received my bachelor's degree in 2015 from Florida A&M University, or FAMU, in Tallahassee, Florida. I'm sure we'll delve deeper into the project that I did when I was 14 years old, but it really did open a lot of doors when it came to discovering what kind of physician I wanted to be. The fact of even wanting to go into medicine. And so I guess that is a big reason why I'm even here.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, let's get into it, man. Tell the people what your claim to fame is.
Okay, so humbly speaking, in ninth grade, when I was 14 years old, I went to a school that I graduated from was a medical magnet program. So I was actually part of its first graduating class. And the purpose of the school was to introduce high school students and middle school students to medicine. So we had courses in Latin, for instance, because of course a lot of the drugs, a lot of diseases have Latin-based roots, and so that was something that we took in school. We also were able to have chances to interview and or shadow physicians at a local hospital across the street from the school. And so I say all that to say I had an opportunity to shadow for about a couple of years at a simulation center at the hospital across the street. And the basis of a simulation center is basically it was an older hospital that kind of got renovated, and now it had all of these mannequins. And the mannequin purpose was for nurses, doctors, other physicians to come in and to practice certain surgical techniques on the mannequins before they actually did it in real life on humans. And so I was able to interview or shadow, I'm sorry, I keep saying interview. I was able to shadow at that facility for a couple of years, and I became really acquainted with the director over the simulation center. And so the year before, when I was in 8th grade, I did a science fair project, and it was maybe on larvae in terms of the different temperatures that flies would need to grow. Kind of a typical middle school science fair project. And I remember that my board and presentation looked really nice, so I felt that was one of the reasons why I was promoted to go to participate on a more local stage. I remember getting there and seeing so many different students and just being surrounded by all of these students who I felt just were so intelligent, and I really wanted to have an opportunity to compete on that level again, and I wanted to win the next time. And so I remember bringing that up to a very special teacher that I had at the time and that I maintained too. And she said, well, you know, you work at the simulation center, so I can put you in contact with the person and you all can kind of figure out a project that you can do that will be not only beneficial, but impressive enough to have you win at a science fair competition. And so I'm great. I'm glad with it. And so I talked to the administrator. And one of the things that he mentioned was that he found out that I was really curious about laparoscopic surgery. And not to really go into deep depth about that, but it's basically a minimally invasive keyhole surgery. Instead of making a large incision in the abdomen, for instance, when the surgeon needs to go in, they'll make small little holes, and they insert a camera and graspers or different instruments in those holes. And you kind of see on the screen what's going on inside the abdomen. And so it's a lot less invasive, but it's almost like a computer game too, because you're looking on screen at what's going on inside of the body, and you're having to learn how to use the graspers and things like that to manipulate what you want in the body in a very restricted area. So I was really impressed and surprised with that type of innovation. And so he noted my impression of it, and he decided that he had a topic that he wanted me to consider doing. So I like to tell that because then I go into talking about how my project centered around closing the vaginal cuff after a hysterectomy had been performed. So a lot of people is like, how is a 9-year-old or 14-year-old 9th grader dealing with hysterectomies and vaginal cuff, and how does that? Well, the topic of the project was the administrator of the simulation center, but he allowed me to go forth with the topic and to actually develop a new suturing technique that would close the vaginal cuff as well as minimize hospitalizations. So the basics of it was finding a new technique, a new way to do something that other doctors have done in their way. The benefit or the good thing about it was from someone who wasn't a surgeon at all, but a 9th grader. And so that was an amazing opportunity for me, a big blessing. Also, it was great for the school because it showed others what students were doing at Darnell Cookman Morehouse School of Medical Arts. And it opened a plethora of doors, speaking engagements, opportunities to meet other physicians in different specialties, opportunities to speak at different medical conferences, a lot of things that I'd never been exposed to or I didn't really know about because I'm a first-generation medical student. So that was a really big push to showing me that this is what I wanted to do and this is where I wanted to go.
So quick question for you, Tony. And that's amazing, by the way. I'm just sitting over here, man. I'm hearing a lot of terminology that's just fascinating to me. As a fully grown adult, I can imagine that you, as a 14-year-old, in that world, in that space, and the impact that you've had on that community. Where are you from? Born and raised. Can you give us a little bit of that information, please?
Yeah, I'm from, I'm Florida born and raised. Tallahassee, I was born, which is actually the location of FAMU, my undergraduate institution. I moved to Jacksonville when I was about 4 years old. My father is a pastor in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And so that church specifically, it does a lot of moving pastors around to different locations. So one of his appointments was in Jacksonville, and that's when we moved. I also have a twin brother, and I am older than him by 3 minutes. But of course, he's been with me through this whole process. He's actually considering law school at the moment, but he's in environmental science, so that's his specialty.
Outstanding.
So I had a question about the technique that you developed. Is that something that is actually used in these type of procedures now?
So I'll say this: it can be used.
Okay.
If I can be completely honest with you, I don't know how much, because the thing is, if you have 10 physicians, 10 surgeons who all do this procedure, they all can do the procedure, but in different ways. They all may have different stitching techniques that they do continuously. So it's difficult for a physician to want to switch to something different unless they actually see, oh wow, this is really good, this is really beneficial. So I believe it could possibly be still being used, especially by the OBGYN that I did consult with on the project, but I'm not sure how much. And it's just because each physician has a special way of doing the same thing. Okay. And so they may have found my technique and maybe found a better way to tweak it, and make it better. So that's also a possibility.
So I know the technique has been dubbed the Hansberry Stitch.
Yes, yes, sir.
So, but it's named after you then, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so in that case, then, if someone does use it, I mean, how does that work? Do you get royalties for that, or do they say, hey, I'm about to teach, or in school they say, you're about to teach this Hansberry Stitch, or I'm going to utilize the Hansberry Stitch? Like, how does that work?
That's the question. Like, is this in any publication? Does your name appear beside it? I mean, that's a very good question. It should be. I will say that.
So it's actually that's probably the second question I get after how would a 14-year-old know anything about a hysterectomy. The next thing is, were you able to get it patented? And we didn't. I have always just held the belief that it's a method. And so I don't know if methods are able to be, if you could go down that road. And to be completely honest, I wasn't in a space to really, that wasn't a priority for me.
Yeah.
I think that there were so many different doors that were open, not even financially, but just opportunities, that it kind of just took the place of that. And then, like I said, because it's not in any publications that I know of, it's no way to quantify how it's being used, if it's still being used. So no, we didn't prioritize trying to get it patented. We were just thankful for the opportunity, and it kind of, things just started, because when I did the project, like I said, it was a science fair. So it wasn't supposed to go anywhere but to win me at the local fair. I mean, because at the fair, you had all of these students from all of the other major high schools. And I'll be completely honest, you didn't have a lot of black people, didn't have a lot of black students at these fairs. And so it was a really prideful thing to be one of the few black persons presenting some type of research. And so that was really a big inspiration for me to try to compete, because I felt I was good enough too. I felt that I was smart enough too. And I wanted to get out of school early and go to this convention site and present alongside other intelligent students and feel like I was, somehow making a difference, or that I was important. So that was my focus. That was my priority. And then after the project finished, that's when the newspaper came out, because of course, then it was important for the school to show that students were doing this at Darnell Cookman. And then after that came out, then it was, oh, a Black student is able to do this, a 14-year-old Black student is able to do that. And so then it really, we never thought it was patent worthy initially. That just wasn't a priority.
What's your background? So before high school, like, were you at a private school? I mean, first of all, is Darnell Cookman, is that a public school?
So Darnell Cookman is a magnet school.
Okay.
And so before Darnell Cookman, so I came to Darnell Cookman when I was in the 7th grade, and I actually graduated from Darnell Cookman. And before that, I was at a school called Potter's House Christian Academy. Okay. So it was a Christian school.
Okay.
And of course, that definitely played a big role in my upbringing as well.
How so?
Well, I mean, first you're in that school, you prayed often. The interactions that you had with a lot of other students, I can't speak of other people's experiences, but I know for me, you didn't have all the fighting, the cussing. You didn't have the idea of trying to fit in and be somebody to, I never got bullied. Things like that, I think I didn't see at that school. And now I did have a twin, so we grew up very not separated from a lot of people, but we didn't hang around a lot of people. It was just us all the time. So I think that definitely has some play in it. But ultimately, even if we had to get disciplined at the Christian Academy, our parents allowed them to do that. And so we had a community growing with us. And like I said, just the teachers, I had a Black male teacher actually in 4th grade. And I know that might come up later in the conversation, but I've been seeing a lot on social media where they ask people, how long was it until you had a Black male educator? Because of how significant seeing a Black man in the teaching role can be, not only for Black students and Black male students, but also for persons of every race. And so I actually had mine in 4th grade, which is really young for a lot of people, compared to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So that's also another benefit from Potter's House.
Okay. So I guess I want to ask you just, as far as even going to the magnet medical school, like, was that your decision, or was it a decision from your parents, or, did you already have that interest? How did that come about?
I'll give my parents majority of that because it was a new school. I actually graduated with 54 or 55 other classmates. So we started out with maybe 80 students. I wanted to go to another school, another well-known high school where you had the football teams, basketball teams, where you had 200 people in the class, where you can make a lot of friends, where, you had that. And that's why I didn't want to go to Darnell at first, because it was a smaller school. It was a new student. So there wasn't any football programs or basketball. It was just the whole high school thing that you think about. They didn't have it. Yeah. And so at first I didn't want to go. But my parents, there was no option. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, when a project happened, it was like, oh, aren't you glad that you went to Darnell Cookman now? Because this would not have happened at any other school. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, Tony. What was that transition like? So you're coming from Darnell Cookman High School, relatively small, 50 or so some odd students in your graduating class, and then you transition, I believe, to FAMU.
Yes, sir.
And that is probably more, if you were looking for those things in the high school, of the football team and marching band, etc., I know for certain you found those things at the campus of FAMU. So tell us a little bit about that experience, and specifically that transition from high school to that first year of college.
The transition was amazing. I knew before I graduated, my dad actually went to FAMU.
Okay.
And I saw the camaraderie that he had. We, coming from or growing up in Tallahassee, being born in Tallahassee, my whole family, my whole dad's side of the family, that was their alma mater. We would go to games, football games. So before, while I was in high school, middle school, so I kind of saw everything. I saw the fun, the excitement. So when I was applying for colleges, I think I only applied for 3 schools. I'll be honest, Howard was where I wanted to go. Who doesn't want to go to the Mecca?
Okay.
I applied to FAMU because I really wasn't excited about FAMU because my dad had gone there and we'd seen it so much. And I was like, I want to be away from family. I don't want to stay where if I'm going out somewhere and someone sees me, they can call my dad and hey, I saw your son, you know. So because of course my grandma is also pretty known in Tallahassee as well. And I applied to a PWI, a predominantly white institution in Florida, because my mom was worried that I wasn't giving myself enough options. And so, but when I went to FAMU, I always tell people that it is the first place where you really can appreciate seeing the breadth of Black beauty, Black excellence, Black intelligence. And it's funny because a lot of people say that an HBCU lacks diversity. And the ironic thing is that there's so much diversity in just Black people, you know, just Black people. There's so much diversity, you know, in terms of how you grew up, where you grew up, you know, how you learn certain things. And so FAMU was an amazing melting pot. And not to carry on too long, but I actually, when I got to FAMU, I wanted to be involved and active in everything. So my brother and I, we ran for Senate positions right into freshman year. We did other organizations. We were involved on campus. We also joined Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. And so we were very heavily involved in everything. And I think I did that because I told myself, if I'm going to go to an HBCU, I want to enjoy all the perks that come from it. I don't want to be in the library studying 24/7. Now, I'll say on the other hand, you know, and I'm sure we'll get to it, kind of living so freely and being so involved definitely does have its consequences, which I think I saw when I was applying for medical school my first round, and not really being up to par. So having to kind of go back, do a master's program, really learn how to focus and take things a little bit more seriously in terms of not being so involved in extracurricular activities. And they come back and now reapply, get accepted, etc. So I say that to say I was active, very active, but I told myself I needed to be active if I wanted to take advantage of FAMU.
You know, and just hearing just about the tenacity of not feeling that you wasn't up to par to get into medical school, but then doing the master's program, then still getting accepted in the medical school in the second go around. You know, now there's a book about, I think it's called The Pact.
Oh, yes.
And they held each other accountable. So I'm almost wondering, like, did you know, how did you maintain focus, first of all, and then who's your accountability and support in you know, in your college life and now your med school life?
So easily my parents and my grandma are the consistent driving force. My grandmother actually was a radiographer for about 40 years, and my mother is a registered nurse. And so they always say that they are living vicariously through my experiences. My mom actually, she always jokes that she wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And so a lot of times when I'm talking to her about different things that I'm doing, she's more excited about it than me. And she's more worried, focused on my grades than me sometimes. So so of course, family and my dad as well. My dad is, he was in the banking industry before he accepted ministry full time. So I appreciate his perspective because it comes from okay, son, you know what you should be doing. You know, you're responsible enough to do what you're supposed to do. So when I talk to him about different things, that's his perspective. But I didn't really grow up having necessarily role models, mentors. I definitely think that was one of the factors in there in terms of me having to figure things out kind of on my own. And I don't say that to kind of pity or to make excuses. I think there's so many different factors that are important in increasing the amount of African American and specifically African American male doctors. Factors including parental involvement. You know, are the parents involved in the education of their child? Are the parents like mine pushing them to say, hey, you know, you've always wanted to be a physician. You've always told people you wanted to be a physician. Don't stop just because it's been challenging or things have not gone exactly the way you want to. So you need parental involvement. You also need opportunities like I had. You know, I never forget to tell people that that was an opportunity that a lot of people don't get. And because I was in the right place at the right time, I was able to benefit from it. But if I never had that opportunity, if I hadn't gone to Darnell Cookman, I wouldn't say I wouldn't be a physician, but it probably would not be the case. And of course, you have to talk about educational opportunities as well. I think that a lot of people don't receive the proper level of study from the beginning. And I remember, now I'm not a teacher. I taught for a few months. And it was at a middle school, predominantly African American, and predominantly most of the students were receiving free or reduced lunch. And it was an opportunity for me to see the other side of the fence, because going to a magnet school, you know, everybody doesn't go to a magnet school either. And so, of course, at a magnet school, you're surrounded by a lot of diversity, but you're also surrounded by students who are performing at a really high level. You know, these are students whose parents are doctors, are lawyers, you know, are professionals. So teaching at a different school was really eye-opening. There were great teachers, great students, but it felt like a lot of them was falling through the cracks. Some of them weren't able to read, and it was in middle school. Some of them weren't able to read past the third grade reading level. I remember that they were doing assignments in class, and I was asking one of the teacher, hey, could you let the students take this book home, you know, so that they can read and do homework? They weren't able to do homework in some sense because they didn't either have the parental involvement that they needed, or they were afraid they were going to lose the work at home and not bring it back. And they didn't have any way to keep them accountable for that because they didn't have the best relationship with some of the parents. To make sure to tell the parents, hey, make sure Johnny is doing his work, his homework like he's supposed to. So that was really eye-opening for me, because a lot of times when you have one per experience, you just have that single perspective. And you think, oh, everybody has the same magnet education. Everybody has the same opportunity to go to FAMU and to go here and there. And then you really put yourself in different situations and see, oh, wow, like, shoot, this child is really falling through the cracks and they're not even out of middle school yet. So how can you expect for them to be able to be that lawyer or the doctor that you suggest that they can be if they're not given the proper tools from the beginning? And so, I apologize. I don't know how we got that far.
Yeah, no, you just talk, you know, you were talking about your time spent in teaching. We talked. Well, did you ask the last question, Kente? Or was this off of the question about how did you stay focused? You mentioned like not necessarily having mentors.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, yes, sir. So to wrap that up, it was a lot of falling off the horse and getting back up. It was a lot of this project as a 14-year-old. You know, I don't share it often, but while it was an amazing project, it was great. it also had a little play on my mental psyche and on my feeling of self-worth as well, because people started to know me as this boy who did a project. He must be a genius. He's a genius. And I think they were writing that. And I think that people have to be careful, how much pressure they can put on somebody without being called a genius is not supposed to be a bad thing. And it's not at all. But for me, it reminded me that I wasn't where I was showing people I could be, or people were assuming where I was, and I wasn't there. And that was a lot of internal strife it caused. And so, but eventually that was also the reason why I kept going, because I said, people are depending on me. I did tell people this is what I want to do. I did do this and I did do that. I do have people rooting for me. So it's, you can see it both ways. So I didn't really have anybody but my family really, and myself, the project, to keep me accountable.
I mean, just given what you told about your family, I mean, that's huge, man. I mean, family. I mean, just thinking about that, where you're getting, CNN, they calling you real life Doogie Howser. I saw that, and I know that, for a 14-year-old who, you say you in a class of 50 people, but millions of people are reading about you and probably trying to contact you, and you seeing yourself in publication on the news and stuff. And that can do a lot to the psyche of a young man, good or bad, And so, thank you for your honesty saying that, it is a lot of pressure. But, I just had this conversation earlier about how in America, we really don't look at honor a lot, what I'm saying, when it comes down to, but I know other countries, they look at, what I do is not just for me. It's for the honor of my family and for my community, things like that. And so that sounds like your family is a huge, foundation in your life, and that, from your father. I mean, that's one thing, having your father there, your mother there, generations, your grandmother, then having a twin brother as well. That's huge. And, so you said you didn't necessarily have role models, but listening to you, it sounds like your family unit was your role model, your sense of strength, and your sense of honor as well. So that's definitely you had that built in. And one of the things we look at as educators, even like when you said that you were in at the school and you kind of saw the things, and sometimes the family structure may not be there, but oftentimes we have to look at creative ways to kind of build that structure in. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's one of the focuses of In Demand, is that when there's a need, like, I believe that, Black men, it seems like, how old were you when you did the teaching?
2020. So 25.
Yeah. So it seems like you see early that, it's my belief that every Black man that's like our rites of passage, that we did something to invest in the next generation, and, that's our, that's our duty,
Right.
So I think, that kind of helps out, like, with our young people who may not have a strong, family background, or who may be falling through the cracks, that they're able to link up with, Black men who come to be educators, or those who are mentors and volunteers. It's so important for our men to kind of be activated in that way.
I agree. And I commend you all and your initiative as well. That was why when you asked me to do this, it was easy, no doubt, because I full-heartedly believe that, and I can only speak from, in terms of the decline of African American men in medical school, that it really, I think a big part of it is just mentorship. You can't really become what you don't really see, or that you don't know anything about. And so I applaud you all, because it is difficult, especially as an instructor. I mean, as an educator, when you see a child and you want to help, but you can only do so much. Because, like I said, there's so many different factors. I mean, and also to give a shout out to Morehouse School of Medicine,
Yeah.
its mission is to help the underserved and disadvantaged communities. We have a lot of opportunities to learn about something they call social determinants of health.
Mhm.
And basically, those are different factors like income, education level, your safety, community safety, so sidewalks, for instance. All of these different factors, access to healthcare, all of these factors can determine the access that someone has to medical care. And then if you kind of draw that line to the fact that a lot of diseases disproportionately affect minorities and poor communities, you'll see that a lot of it is because of a lack of access to proper preventative care. And so there's so many different, factors that are all connected to each other in some kind of way. But I applaud you all on your mission.
And thank you for agreeing to be on, man. I definitely appreciate that. Definitely was honored that you accepted the request. Right now, you said, are you in your dorm room? You said.
Yeah, my studio apartment.
Okay. Oh, okay. It's not on campus.
No, actually, it is right across the school from
Okay.
Morehouse School of Medicine. They, within the last couple of years, they built a really nice facility that they have actually been able to not only include housing for students and residents of Atlanta, but also have a health center. So it's a health center for the community, has a YMCA as well. So there's a lot of different community things in this facility.
So we talked about how you got the FAMU. So tell us about your going to Morehouse School of Medicine. I think Spike Lee and Sam Jackson called it the house. How did we end up in the house?
But before that, though, was there a stop at Central Florida in between?
There was a stop at South Florida. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. So I applied to medical school my first round, and I didn't get accepted. I was saddened, but I wasn't surprised because, like I said, I had done introspection and realized that I wasn't where I needed to be. So I decided, okay, you know what? I'm the type of person, I like challenges. So I didn't want nothing easy. So I said, I didn't get accepted, but I can show and I can prove that if I had gotten accepted, that I would have done what I needed to do. So University of South Florida had a really strenuous master's program where you basically took first year medical courses along with medical students at Morehouse School of Medicine, which was at University of South Florida. And so it was a year program, and I did that, did well in it, but it really strengthened my studying skills. It really showed and proved that this is what I wanted to become, because I remember praying so many times, like, Jesus, if this is not the route for me, I need you to give me a sign really quick. Because, it's people like to glamorize, becoming a doctor. And, it's rough. It is a lot of sleepless nights. It's a lot of stress, when everything that you can become is dependent on tests, how well you do. On one test determines the grade that you get in the class, and the grade that you get in the class determines how residency programs will look at your application. It determines if you will have the grades that you need to get to become the surgeon that you may want to be. Everything is about tests. So I learned in a master's program how to ease my anxiety, and I therefore when I got to Morehouse, the first goal that I made, I said, okay, this is a blessing. And side note, I was blessed enough to where I just wanted to get accepted when I reapplied the second time. And God showed amazing favor and gave me multiple acceptances, as well as scholarship opportunities. So before, when I was just trying to get in school, just to get in, because I really wanted to be a physician, I was held back, improved, and now I was able to get in and get even more than what I ever would have asked for, ever would have thought I would have been able to get in the first place. And so, but I made the goal that because of my stresses in the master's program, I realized I didn't like that. I was losing weight. I remember every time I would come home, my mom would ask, are you like trying to lose weight? And if you saw me in person, I'm not gonna go into the height and all that kind of stuff, but I don't have anything to lose. And so I just remember telling myself, okay, if you get to medical school, you're gonna have to make a couple promises, and that's that you maintain your mental sanity and that you check your grades when they come out. I remember I had such bad anxiety in my master's program because, like I said, you prepare for the test, and of course you're preparing to be a great doctor. But in order to be a great doctor, you have to pass the test. Mm-hmm. So you and the test kind of you start to let that, if you do, determine your worth in a sense, and so I would not check the results of an exam for a week sometimes. These results will be out. I just would go about it. Oh, nothing's happened. I'm not going to look until I'm completely ready to accept whatever it may be, good or bad. And I remember telling myself that coming into Morehouse, I wasn't going to do that. So, and I've been able to stick to that plan. I've actually done really well here as well. No concerns about keeping my scholarship. So I'm blessed to be in that situation. So it's been amazing. Morehouse is an amazing institution. Unfortunately, because of COVID, I'm not really able to experience every single thing that makes it amazing, but I'm hopeful that soon we'll be able to. I knew that I wanted to go to an HBCU for my medical degree because I knew, first of all, I've always wanted to serve underserved and minority communities. My grandfather was a funeral home owner, and it was in a small city of Monticello, Florida, maybe 30 minutes outside of Tallahassee. And I remember growing up and coming around, and he would always have bodies who were African American, and they will all die of similar diseases: diabetes, hypertension, stroke, and I just really was interested how Black people were susceptible to kind of the same thing in a sense. It really piqued my interest. And so that's what made me want to devote whatever I did in the future to make sure that it really did impact underserved communities. And so that's the mission statement of majority of the HBCU medical schools. And then, of course, I wanted to be around people who I could relate to, who had similar upbringings, who had similar struggles. I have classmates who didn't get accepted on their first round, second or third either. So we can communicate better. It's not a competition either. We help each other succeed. How you do doesn't affect my grade or anything, so we all can work together. So that's really the energy that I wanted to go into, because medical school is already difficult. So it didn't matter to try to make it more difficult by trying to be in a competitive place where, So Morehouse has been amazing. Transition has been amazing.
What can, in your experience, what can teachers and parents do to interest more young men to go into studying medicine?
From my opinion, I believe the interest is there. The interest is there. It's the minimal role models that someone can have. Like I said, if you don't really know what it's going to take, if you don't know the struggles that it'll take to become a physician, you'll stop at the first roadblock. I remember graduating from college in 2015, and I couldn't really take a career path because I wanted to go to medical school. So I knew, okay, you just need to find a job, pay the bills, do what you have to do. But I think the interest is there. It's tenacity, I think, is what needs to be like at the forefront. I think parents shouldn't force interest. My parents didn't force interest. It was never, you have to go. I remember multiple occasions. Well, son, if this is not what you want to do, that's okay. When I would stress in my master's program and I'd call my mom, she says, not always understand, we love you regardless. You don't have to be in this position, if this is not something that makes you happy, that's okay. So being understanding, but also being there for the student when they express that interest and giving them opportunities to make it happen. Like I said before, when you brought up, it was my parents' decision to make my brother and I stay at Darla Cookman. If it had been my way, I probably would not be in medical school right now. So making those decisions for us that we just didn't have the foresight to make is important. So I like I said, I think the interest is already there. I think Black boys here often, Black children here often, your bodies don't just have to be used for football and basketball. They know the standard. You can be a lawyer, you can be a doctor. I think that's something that has replayed in my mind. So I think the interest is there. It's just you have to have mentors and people who they can team up with, who can show them what they should do in college. How important their classes should be. Not to give up when things get difficult or they don't get accepted their first, second, or third time, but to keep trying. Those are, to me, more important things to minimize the gap.
Go ahead, Kente.
Yeah, so Tony, a second ago, you had mentioned some things that you have found helpful to kind of help keep you centered. You had mentioned when you were 14 and the impact that the acknowledgement of the method that you created had on you. And now that you're in medical school, you have found some effective ways to kind of keep yourself centered. Knowing that there are students out there who are in high school or college who could benefit from some advice in regards to keeping themselves centered, not letting the pressure get to them, keeping themselves motivated. What's some advice or some strategies that you might be able to share with those students?
I'll limit it to 3. The first one is I love shooting pool. That's my go-to. So find something away from the books where you can enjoy it. Now, I'm very competitive too. So if I'm having a bad night or something, or the luck just isn't there, it might that release might become more of a stressor. Okay. So my suggestion is to find something that you can do outside of the books that you enjoy doing: drawing, painting, walking nature trail, something. The second thing is to really, I know that there's some people who may be more religious or more spiritual. I think that at this point in my life, I'm really, really spiritual. So I really spent a lot of time meditating and really just talking kindly to myself. And I stress that really, really, because, you have to be careful what you tell yourself and what you feed it, and the suggestions that you believe. So that's the second thing. I definitely understand my limitations. I do well. I make good grades. But I'm not that 101% student, and guess what? I'm okay with that. I realize that the goal can be to be that 100% student, but if I'm progressing and I'm doing better than I did before, then to still celebrate that milestone, and I think that's important because, you reach one milestone and then before you can even celebrate it, you already set a goal for another one. And I think that could lead to stresses because you never feel good enough. You never do enough. So if you take the time to say, okay, this is where I was, this is my goal, but if I don't hit my goal, I'll still be satisfied with, what I did do, then that's important. That's one way that I maintain my mental sanity. I think also the last thing that will stay with me forever. I remember in college, my grandma, she lived right down the street from FAMU. I would go to her maybe after a test and I'd be bummed maybe about a test. And she'd say, well, did you do your best? And at first, I would say no, because I knew that I was doing too much extracurricular activities. I knew I wasn't focusing as strongly as I maybe should have. And so when I said no, she said, okay, well, beat yourself up about it a little bit, but make sure you see where you can change and what you can do better, and then go at it again. She kept doing that. And as she kept doing that, the more and more she did it, the more I started realizing, okay, I actually did do my best. I actually did put the time in that I was supposed to, that I felt necessary. I didn't short corner anything. And when I started saying, yeah, I did my best, she said, okay, well, what you beating yourself up about? You did your best. That's all you can really do. And so having that mindset also helps, because you might not be that 100% student, but guess what? Maybe you can be that 88% student, but there's this other area that you excel in. Maybe you connect and communicate with people on a deeper level than anything else. So I found ways to say, okay, maybe I'm not the best in this area, but maybe this is really my strong point, so I can really be good here. So it's a good balance, and I think that's one of the things that I've tried to become, is well-rounded. Not try to be the person who can just make A's, because as a physician, you want a competent physician, but before you can even know if the physician is competent, you have to make sure you have to be able to communicate with the physician. Are they going to address you when they walk in the room? Are they going to treat you with kindness? Are they going to make assumptions about you? Those are all very important things, just as important as having a competent physician. So being well-rounded. So I think that I hopefully didn't give too many, but those are my three.
No, I think those are helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And so what area of medicine are you focused on? And, what should we be looking forward to Tony Hansberry doing in the next, let's say, 10 years? Like, what are your goals?
So putting it out there, because I actually don't really mention it much.
Oh, okay.
Let's just put it out there in the universe, is general surgery. Mm-hmm. General surgery. Unless I find something, the thing is, I haven't found something that's like, oh my gosh, I want to do this forever. I want to wake up at 3 a.m. and do this. I haven't found that yet. And so that's also something unique, because there's some medical students that come in and they know, I want to be a cardiologist. From day one, they knew that. I'm not sure exactly what I want to be yet. I'm kind of letting the waves take me to what makes me happiest. Because I think that's what I want. It's not about the money. It's not about not even the prestige. It's important, but of course I want to do something that I really love. I want to do something that I'm passionate about, that also just happens to be helping other people at the same time. So general surgery, I'm just going to throw that out because it's general. So you can take multiple routes as a general surgeon if you want to get deeper into a certain field. So yeah, but I actually did commission July 2020 with the United States Army. And so I'm a second lieutenant, and I am using this avenue to become the physician that I want to become. So I will actually be an Army physician.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Wow. All right. Did you have anything, KJ?
Man, you've already accomplished so much. I'm almost scared to ask what's next.
Yeah.
Where you are and all that you've accomplished and all the people that you've inspired, man. You're a very humble person, and very clear, it's very evident. You reference your being in touch with spirituality. All of that really comes through in you as a person, and it's very evident.
I appreciate that.
Very humble. And so the accolades that you've already accomplished, I'm sure, will pale in comparison to what you will go on in your life to do and accomplish, man. I'm just honored to have this opportunity to speak with you, to meet you, to learn about your accomplishments, and to root for you moving forward, man.
Thank you.
You're a special person, man. Your community is blessed to have you. Your family is blessed to have you. Whatever medical institution you will go on to work for will be fortunate and blessed to have you. And your philosophy and what has inspired you to become the best doctor is very inspiring for others. When you talk about what Morehouse stands for as a medical institution and what they focus on, some of those contributing factors, that information is probably not well known to many people. I would say our viewers, but people, period. And to know that that is a focus is reassuring to me as a person, particularly as an African-American male, to know that there is someone out there studying those aspects of medicine that will ultimately work to our benefit and our betterment. I just thank you for all that you've done, man, and what you will continue to do.
No, and thank you. I appreciate those kind words. And again, of course, thank you for the opportunity. You know, I think that when I did the project, I didn't really, like I said, didn't think that it could inspire anyone. And I think that just by showing people, I think my story, I like most about my story, not the project. You know, the project was cute. It was nice. I think what I like most about my story is that it shows that I've fallen down, but I've gotten back up. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, they'll fall down one time and that's it. They're done. You know, they don't want to do it. And I think that what I like about what I've been blessed to do is there's been times I wanted to quit too now, but it's never been the opportunity to quit. Yeah. And I think that that's what I like about my story. So while I mean, it's nice being tenacious. I don't want to fall down too much more now, but I'm thankful for these opportunities, and everything is always it's worked out exactly as it should. Definitely didn't work out like I thought it would. Yeah, definitely didn't, but it's worked out better than I thought it could as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, like Kente said, man, you know, you got some people in Detroit rooting for you, man. You know, so you know, Detroit. I know Detroit and Atlanta are like twin cities, man. In fact, a lot of Detroiters moved down to Atlanta quite a bit. So you know, you got
Atlanta's.
Yeah. So I guess my question to you, man, as we start to wrap things up, man. What are your other interests? If you were not in med school or pursuing a doctor's degree, you know, what else would you be doing?
So I love design. I think in another life, I maybe was a renovator or architecture. I love design. So, and that's why I was saying that, you know, if you don't see it, you don't know it. Because, for instance, even though I didn't have a position in my family, my mom being a nurse, my grandma being a radiographer, my dad being a pastor, I knew I wasn't going to be a pastor. That was very easy. So I only had medicine to kind of know a little bit from. But I think that if I was exposed to other fields like business, architecture, I probably would have gone into that, because I think I even one day I feel that I don't know if I'll have a business or what, but I want to like be in the business of flipping houses, like that kind of thing. I don't watch TV much, but the two shows I do watch are Grey's Anatomy and HGTV. So yeah, that's what I'd be doing if it wasn't medicine.
I think I saw a video of you singing, man. Yeah, you sing kind of good. You know, you got some nice vocals, man. So you
No, not they not that nice. Like I said, you realize where your limitations are, and you build in other areas. So I mean, I can hold a tune, I can do a little 1-2, but
yeah. So all right, hey, you know, this is you know, we're at the end, man. Believe it or not, we 4 minutes away from an hour, man. So I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Yes, thanks for coming on. Do you have any final thoughts, final words?
Once again, thank you for having me. Final word would be, I live by this quote. It says something to the extent of, be determined about accomplishing your goal, but be flexible in the methods to accomplish it. So basically, you know, if you have a goal, if you want to be a physician, if you want to be a lawyer, you want to, whatever you want to be, set that as the goal, but don't have to think that you have to follow this one route. Get there, because there's so many other ways that you can go and reach the same goal. So that's what I would leave.
How about you, Kente?
No, nothing final, man, because I'm looking forward to keeping tabs. So, final word, man. But, you know, as Quan mentioned, you have a fan base here in Michigan, in Detroit. I will definitely be checking in with you, man. I do want to avail myself as a resource. I'm not sure how I can be helpful, but if there's any way that I can be helpful, please, man, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Yes, sir.
Do have a small network, but a network nonetheless.
Right.
Any words of encouragement I can offer, if it's any introductions I can broker for you, man, just let me know. And I do everything that I can to help and support, man. I believe in what you're doing. I believe that what you're doing will benefit not just you and your family, but others in your hometown or in whatever city that you're residing in or that you'll be working in, man. So I'll be watching from afar and rooting from a distance, man. So just keep up the great work. I
appreciate you both.
Yeah. And then, hey, if you ever in Detroit, man, you know, don't hesitate to reach out, man.
Yeah, I haven't been in Detroit. I drove to Canada once, and on our way back to from Canada, we were on the outskirts. So that's as close to Detroit as I've got. Well, Chicago.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir. But I will.
If you find yourself here, yeah, we can go out and get some conies, man.
Got you.
Introduce them to some Detroit cuisine. You know, I think the last thing I want to say, just piggybacking off of what you said, as far as young people being exposed, and I think that within our culture, you know, I mean, I take this too. Like when you said you was at FAMU, although it is a historically Black university, you know, Black people are not monolithic. You know, we have different interests, different cultures, you know, different career pathways, all those different things. And so I think within our culture, you know, we have enough substance within our culture to expose our young people to, you know, the gamut of opportunities that's out there for them. And so if you're watching this and you're inspired, and you're a black man, and you have some expertise, you have some lessons in you that you feel like you could share with the next generation, I encourage you to go to IamInDemand.com, sign up. Let us connect you with the opportunities to be a light for our young people as mentors, as volunteers. And then if you want to take the plunge to be full-fledged educators, and we can connect you with those opportunities. So IamInDemand.com, sign up, and we connect you. And I just want to, again, thank you again, Mr. Hansberry, man. It was a great conversation. I know it's so much that we didn't go, tackle, but, we're rooting for you. We will be keeping tabs on you and, connecting with you in the future. And so, Kente, thank you, my brother. And see you guys next time.
Right.
All right.